Hey, Profe Loco here to answer another question. What about gifted and talented? It's not talked about too much, and that's true. As we all know, there's a lot of different intelligences. One of my students, um, he could dance like crazy, kinesthetic intelligence, movement intelligence. He could listen to a song, he could see something, and then um, create his own dance routine, and also uh, play by ear the piano. That was similar to my daughter. She could listen to a song, and I'd take her. We probably went to 150 different Christian concerts when she was in high school, and she would be right up front in the mosh pit, and with the Sharpie I'd give her, and she would write down notes and letters and lyrics, and then she would come home, and just by listening to it, she would be able to repeat the song on her keyboard, and it was pretty cool. Definitely out of my skill range. So, how do you qualify for being gifted and talented in today's school districts? Well, usually it starts with parent request because, of course, we all think our kids are brilliant, and so that's pretty cool. So it can come from a parent. Next, they'll check with the classroom teacher. In this case, it's a little bit harder during the pandemic times, but they can say, yes, this child shows above average ability. And what's next? Well, they'll look at test scores, previous test scores from the state to see how the child is doing. Now, that's not the test scores are just one way of looking at it. It's a puzzle piece, or think of it as a pizza where all the pizzas or all the pieces of the pizza are coming together. They'll also give an assessment that requires parent or guardian permission. Now, I've shared with you before about old intelligence tests, such as the Ellis Island entrance exam, where they had to use a block puzzle and make a face. And they had only a certain amount of time to do it. And as I've shared before, it's sort of a weird face. It's getting there. And they make a face out of the block puzzle, and then they can, all right, on your way. So, but nowadays they'll do what's called a test of nonverbal intelligence. And essentially they just have to solve a pattern. Now, this is the very first one. So they look here, they don't even have to know how to read, they just solve a pattern. So you look, signal, and point. This goes here, and then go to the next one. What goes here? That one. And of course, it gets harder and harder where the patterns become very complex. But this works pretty well because even if a child doesn't know how to read or they speak a different language, the test of nonverbal intelligence or a similar test works pretty good. Question: can my child be gifted and have a disability? The answer is yes. One of my students had a traumatic brain injury, several different head concussions, fractured skull that affected his ability to learn. But hands-on learning, he was really good at. And so he was a student that we saw some areas of intelligence, even though he had the traumatic brain injury, which affected his ability to learn. And we saw some things that we could perhaps work with. And so we recommended him to go to test pilot school. And so my wife had opened up a door to go to a test pilot school. We're located where I live, we're near some really awesome aerospace areas. And so he learned about airframe maintenance. He got inspired to go to become a welder, where he got certified for welding and is doing quite well now. Another one of my students, which I've shared before, is autistic. He was so smart. We'd be trying to give him some job skills. We sorting books in the library. I was able to get him some volunteer time there. And he'd say, he'd get mixed up on which books he was shelving. And he would say, Mr. McFarland, I'm having a hard time shelving these books. I get distracted because I'm trying to negotiate the Einstein's theory of relativity with the theory of creation. I was thinking, me too. Not really. I was reading comic books. Oh yeah, right. Go get him, Tiger. So another one of my students with a learning disability, he thought that he was a below average ability, but gave an assessment, an IQ test, along with a very low scores academically, but IQ test, he tested about 129, which is superior level. So I tease him, and even now when I see him in the community, I'll say, there goes the smartest guy in the room, because anytime he enters the room, he's much smarter than the others. So yes, you can be gifted and talented and have a disability. Can you be gifted and talented and not be an English speaker? The answer is yes, you can. One time I got a call, there was a fifth grader that just enrolled, and they say, Mr. McFarland said, this girl just speaks gibberish. We're going to move her to the severely handicapped class, but can you come and maybe see what type of skills that she has? So I went over to the school, and turned out she had, and I'd shared this story before too, but turned out she had come from Manaus, Brazil, which I happened to live in Brazil at one time, and I speak Portuguese, and so I was able to talk to her. Hey, tudo bem, minha filha? Como que tá? How you doing, sweetie? What's going on? So she turned out to be really, really smart, very bright young lady, and there's different types of intelligences, and we interviewed her for the class so that they could get to know her, and she could get to know them. So one of the things that was asked, what shouldn't you do in the Amazon River? Well, that's where Manaus is at, and I've been to Manaus, and it's an interesting place. The Amazon jungle is not something to be messed around with, but the intelligence of someone that knows how to split the atom as compared to survive in the jungle are completely different areas of intelligence. So she said, ok, olha, você não tem que lutar com o cerdo no onça, né? So first of all, don't break up a fight between the family pig and and a jaguar. Bad idea. Her dad got really injured. Outra coisa, another thing. Não mete o dedo do pé no rio Amazônica, né? Said, don't stick your toe into the river. Her mom did that, got her toe bit off by a piranha. And she said, terceira coisa, não pode florestar na selva, sozinho, né? Ou com outra gente. Said, don't wander off in the jungle. And it's true, it's really easy to get lost in the jungle. So different areas of intelligence. Crazy, huh? So you want to look at an example of different intelligences. My wife and I just watched a Netflix special on Rubik Cube creation or competition. And the Rubik Cube was used in this competition and the champion was a young man with autism. So how can it make a difference in school? Let's say your child is gifted and talented. Well, when you have a class of 30, you're going to have about 4 that, I'll just show my hands this way, 4 that have special needs. In other words, a learning disability or maybe mild autism, things like that. And then on the other side, you're going to have 4 that are gifted and talented. And scattered in between, you'll have some English language development, non-English speaker. And that's out of 30 kids. And so for a classroom teacher to be able to meet all the needs of the student, it's sort of like in the Rocky Balboa movies where Rocky says, man, I see 3 of them. What do I do? And his brother-in-law says, hit the one in the middle. And so the teacher has to sort of go for the middle range. And for gifted and talented, it could be more work. It could be opportunities to be involved in an after-school program, such as Lego robotics, things like that. Being smart or being gifted doesn't make you wise. That's why King Solomon asked for wisdom rather than riches. And that's why someone like Dr. Albert Einstein would get so deep in thought that every week his secretary would get a call from someone in a payphone outside of the Princeton area and say, I need to talk to Dr. Einstein's secretary. And I said, well, she's unavailable right now. And he'd say, this is Dr. Einstein, and I'm lost again. he would get so deep in thought that he would wander away, and they'd have to go send out someone to find him unless he could find a payphone or a local place where he could phone to say for somebody to come and get him. Think about gifted and talented. There's different criteria, but it's worth it to see if your child is. This is Profe Loco with another Special Ed Moment. Bye-bye.